I rose from a dream this rising and wrote down exactly the message that I got, and I want to share it with you. Some people trapped in the hierarchy won't see your expression as pure. People who are organized at excelling in systems of competition and clout will see your contributions out of character because they are. The projections are real. My name is Stacy Patrice. Welcome back to my channel. And today I want to talk about identity. We'll get into astrology a little bit surrounding it, but I want to talk about identity and the lens of identity and how it is such a huge topic that we're going to narrow down in our society. So, first off, there are many identities, or should I say, there are many roles. There's one identity. There's one identity. It's the true nature of who you are. It's your soul identity. It's your divine presence. And that's all wrapped into one. Those are not separate identities. That's who you are. But maybe how you are perceived and seen, how you are conditioned, how you are trained into a form, how you are formed, and then how you are responded to as you try to excel through life are the kinds of different identities that the outward world often imposes on us. But let's talk about the inner world. And in the inner world, your identity is remembered. Your identity comes from all of the puzzle pieces that you are given or that you find or discover or unearth in your life that you are putting together as a picture, which pictures always represent a memory, a time that happened that you're looking and peering into in order to recall. So, this is the picture that each of us have the option of putting together in this lifetime. The difference may come when there are people who find things that are challenging to look at, or if there is something back there that is not what wants to be remembered by the soul, or even when we encounter things that make us feel less empowered than we may feel later. And it's very easy to say, no, that wasn't me. But here's what I want to offer on this inner lens is that whatever happened back there happened to help you. You don't have to understand why. You don't have to understand all of the details of how it went down. You don't even have to remember all of the details of how it went down. The only thing you have to remember is what it awakened, shifted, changed, and created boundary within in you. And as you start to put those things in order, as you start to organize those things that are running in the background, that are deep in the memory and the psyche, that other people draw upon, whether that is in friendships, in family, in therapist scenarios, in talking to you about things publicly that should be more sacred and private, as people start to draw on those reserves that you have for another time, something steps forward, something awakens, and is now fully aware of what needs to happen. You know what I'm talking about? It's like all of a sudden, who you are and what it is that you've been through are serving something that's emerging. They are the servants of the new empowered emergence. They are not the story in terms of who you are. There is an I was and there is an I am. And the more that the I am emerges, it just brings along these servants in order to be in power where the I am is resting. So this brings to mind a lot of things for me. This brings to mind what people are avoiding and how sometimes they project and provoke it in others because they refuse to accept it and refuse to deal with it. And so we're talking deep psyche stuff. We're talking about people who actually know on a subconscious level that these are the people they have to do this with, because it's almost as if you weren't there, they wouldn't be able to actually awaken at some point, because the same thing that is happening with you that you're conscious of is happening with them that they're not conscious of. So we're all serving each other in all of these different ways. And it really depends on our consciousness. It depends on what I'm aware of, what you are aware of. And that's why this work of teaching in this lifetime is so important to me, because as students learn, students share. And the more students share and the more students learn, the more they become the people that can represent and translate and speak to what it is that they are aware of, what it is that is being awakened in them, so that other people can awaken what is dormant in them. So I would say that based on what I saw in this dream, people trapped in a hierarchy won't see your expression as pure. If people have already ordered and organized themselves into these boxes, into these places that they believe defines who they are, then there is no space to incorporate other things that may contradict or conflict with that, which means often they're making a decision and they're choosing the one that looks the most powerful. That is the one that they want to lead with. That is the one that makes them feel empowered for a multitude of reasons. But that power that they're leading with is what we call false power, because that power can't have any real influence because it isn't real. It doesn't have any roots. It's not connected to anything that's the truth. It is an aspect that feels good, but without the roots, it doesn't really get the rise. All it can do is be a tyrant, push people around, bark orders, dictate, dominate, because that's what it's doing to its owner. It's doing that to itself. It's saying, no, it's not this, it's this. It's saying, no, we can't do that because it'll look like that. It's dominating, dictating, and running the show. And here is where the part of my dream starts to come into play. Once you get out of that cycle of doing that, it usually comes at the expense of what we call an ego death. And an ego death, the way I understand it and have experienced it in my life, an ego death is when this identity no longer has legs. It's when it is causing more harm than good. It is when it is suffocating your ability to emerge, and definitely when it is holding up traffic. So the ego death becomes this pedestrian figure that has to go somewhere or get out of the way or wait for traffic or in some way observe or witness something more than itself. It will require it. And the ego death typically comes when something you weren't expecting takes up residence in your life. Meaning you might have seen your life a particular way, and then there's this thing that happens and you cannot get away from it. Or there is this series of events that you could not prevent. And I'm not saying this in a doom and gloom way. Sometimes it feels that way. But what I want to point out is those things that we have desperately tried to control because of the ebb and flow of all that is will have to rest at some point. So control, control, control if that's what you're into. But at some point, that will have to rest. And if it doesn't have a regular rising and resting cycle daily or throughout the week, there will be a period of years that it will have that rising resting cycle. And so I'll explain this in the sense of planetary periods as it relates to Vedic astrology. And I have seen it in charts of people that go into this area of Saturn and they think that this is hard. And, or they think that, what it is that they're experiencing is somehow too much. Like they're losing parts of who they are. And it's just cleaning house. It's just cleaning house. This can also happen in some people's charts in the Jupiter period. I see it a lot where this person is expanding. And as they expand, what normal society would say is they might feel, what do they call that? Imposter syndrome. I don't like that terminology. And so what I say is, as you are expanding, there are parts of you that have to clear out again, so the part of you that's true can emerge. So you can't expand while you're trying to hold on to some anchor that's been holding you down. You felt empowered because you felt stable. You were like, this is how I stabilize. This is how I do this. But that anchor was holding you down. And so, in order to really expand, you have to let go of that. And that's okay because if you don't, that Saturn period is coming. And you have to understand that, like, on a certain level, your discipline is what's helping you grow. Your spiritual discipline, in particular, is what's helping you grow. It's what's giving your soul space to stretch. And so, looking back at my notes, I wrote down ego death, new you, 12th house cycles, water placements. All of these can read as transformation and a dying to something through your feeling. As you're feeling your way through life, these topics start to feel icky. They start to remind a person who didn't know that there's something else, that there's something else, that what they're feeling is real and what it is that they are experiencing has a certain quality. So when I talk about those water placements, that quality of Cancer that's like suffering and feeling martyrdom and feeling the bleeding heart, wanting to give so much, but having such a hard time, like really stepping into that, unearthing that, and feeling in control. That Scorpio placement that looks at things so deeply and wants to be in the depths, but wants to transform others and doesn't really feel good about the transformation they are in, still dominating, controlling, not handling the transformation they are in with the same grace that they purport to others. Meaningful work, but more so their own transformation tends to feel like a kind of getting back. And it's getting back to that power, but it's never like resting when it's, not in a mature stage. It's never like resting in, okay, this is what it is. I'm seeing myself clearly, and I'm going to do something to remedy that. And then it's that Pisces placement. And that Pisces placement doesn't want to come down and ground because it feels so unfamiliar. It's so in the spiritual realm. It's so in the cosmos and the cosmic identity that a lot of times the physical world is more challenging. It's easier to be in the spiritual world, in the realms of not yet created. And then it being at the end has those deep cycles of depth and death. Being at the end and starting all over, undoing oneself, and then becoming the next thing. These are things that I find really interesting and fascinating. Of course, when I think about the things that we are up against, it's like sometimes it can feel daunting to try and be yourself in a world where people want the more aggressive part of you. They want the introverts to be more extroverted. They want those in solitude to be in crowds more. They want those who are quiet to, jump in and loosen up. They want those who um, possess a certain sense of subtlety to be more brash in your face and clapping back. I'm thinking of so many things, so excuse my laughter. But they want the part of you they think is unactivated. They think these are the parts of yourself that have to be developed, like there's something wrong because it doesn't look like the others, or you haven't joined the larger society because these parts of your personality are still kind of in the cut kicking it. And they don't want that to be. And what sometimes I've really noticed is that other people are very uncomfortable with that because they can't read it. They want something they can read. They want something that's in the forefront so they can say, I recognize that. That's what this is. But those same people can't recognize the things you're doing because they've never been through the process. They've never taken the stillness. They've never decided to be quiet. They've never put the ego down. They are always on alert and always being called forward in their strength because vulnerability is scary to them. Not being the best, not being the first, not being the greatest, and definitely not being the loudest or the brightest is scary to them. And then at this stage in your life, as you start to, experience that ego death and that identity reformation and even reclamation, you start to see the people that are more in the cut and you're like, yeah, yeah, like they know it, but they don't have to show it. It's already being shown. It's already who they are. They don't have to announce it and brag about it and all of those things. We know who you are and we see you. And I have learned to appreciate that so much in this latter part of my life. And astrology has been a beautiful tool for that. I remember my second or third phase of learning astrology really did kick off from an ego death. It was what made me look deeper into things that were happening. I was already on the sidereal journey, but it was really what was going on in my life and the kind of people I was in the company of that started to feel really icky. And it was because those people wanted me while I was in my healing and formation phase in the hopes that I wouldn't see who they really were being and that they would move forward to what they felt was coming. And no, yeah, no. Universe cleaned house, new timeline. So, and some of those people, can be people you've known a long time. It can be people you've known a long time. It could be decades. And still, there will only be a shallow connecting point from here forward because you are rebuilding the true self. If you're on that journey, there is no pause, there's no stop. It is a full surrender. It is a full, who cares? Who cares about the things I used to care about? Why did I care about those so much? Who cares? It is a full surrender. And that surrender looks a lot like while you all pay attention to the clout and the hierarchy and the competition and the labeling of roles by characteristics, I'm gonna work with all of this matter that you're not even looking at, and I'm gonna make magic of my life. And I'm going to do it in the right identity, in the right way, in the right process, so that when what it is that I am starts to speak and comes forward, there will be nothing to defend and nothing to explain. And your journey in astrology, and I will say particularly the extended journey in sidereal astrology and specifically in Vedic astrology, really helps you to see that in so many ways. And I'm not talking about transits and prediction and future looking, although that is there in spades. But I am talking about all of those identity factors that are just waiting for you to dive in, waiting for you to discover this is something I feel like this is a life skill, and I've said this before that we each need to partake in. It doesn't make a lot of sense to just let other people tell us who we are. At some point, we have to face our soul journey and say, man, it knows more than me because I came here with it. I came here with credits and debits, and I am looking to balance my understanding and perspective of that. The divine didn't create me to ignore that. And I'm here to learn it, engage it, embody it, respect it, honor it because it is divine for no other reason, but because it is divine. If that is what the Most High and the Creator and the divine spark lit within me, then I have to remain connected to it and light it up. So the people in the hierarchies are not your North Star. They may be over positions of power. They may hover over certain doors. They may gatekeep certain information, but know that that is false power. That is force. And they are forcing themselves and thus have that same energy and critique with everything that exists around them. Please do not take that personal, but perhaps move around, find somewhere else to be that is more inclusive and indicative of the energy you are starting to understand about yourself. And be kind, like you would a newborn baby when this is happening. Be kind. You know, in the past, I can remember times I wasn't very kind, but I wasn't being kind to myself. I had such a position of I have to excel. I mean, like that was completely conditioned upon me. All the top schools, all the top programs, all the top everything. And yes, I did belong there. And also, I didn't belong there. It was a training ground. I didn't belong there for long, but it was not the way I wanted to do life, and I knew it. You know, the competition and the excellence at the top of everything in the first, I didn't care about that. And so a lot of my education was riddled in that kind of power. But I will say to you, this is why some people say we reparent ourselves. We're doing our own corrections and learning as we go along what is most important and what the energy really is. What is the vibe really? And ego death will clear the deck. Those placements, those times in your life, that timing, it will clear the deck. So with the students into the East, we're going to get into a little bit of that in this upcoming week. We're going to look at the depths of that, and I'm so excited for that, and for them for that, because it is really a beautiful journey, and we're going to start looking deeply into the psyche. But I encourage you here, you watching, whatever time you're watching this, to do that as well. Start taking a look at it. Start trying to make sense of it. Don't force yourself to know it all in one day. It takes years. When you find people who talk about astrology and it resonates, it's because of repetition. Years. Years of reading charts, years of studying, years of different teachers, life lessons, experience, maturity, all of that. It didn't happen in 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. Mm-mm. It has long, deep roots and lots of people who keep you accountable, continuously talking about it, continuously on the journey. So I say that to you, allow yourself to not pay attention to the people who are trapped in the hierarchy that don't see your expression as pure. See it for yourself, study it for yourself, and by all means, learn what the full scope of that identity is holistically and not just picking the parts that make you feel powerful. All right. Again, let me know how this journey spoke to you, what parts of it spoke to you in today's video. If you've been through an ego death, if you have a definition of it that you'd like to share, because it is about interfacing with each other, sharing, teaching, engaging with each other, growing each other, and walking each other home as well. So share in the comments, like, subscribe to my channel if you're not already, and share this with others. If you think there are people in your life that this video resonates with where they are right now, or if there are people who are like, I don't know where to start. Share. Share. It's a free resource for a reason. Share. And I look forward to seeing you all on the next topic and commenting with you as you leave them for me to review. All right. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Pay attention to your dreams, pay attention to yourself, and find that love for who you've been and the courage it took you to be here now. All right. Peace.